Back at the mailbag here, and a topic which we've covered at different stages on the podcast of late, just around vibes in stadiums, atmosphere, fan culture, and that kind of thing. So this is from David, who's writing this email from Sydney. Big fan of the show and have been an avid listener since the start. Also a YouTube subscriber. Conán will be happy to hear.
Wow.
David says, I'll be rooting for you guys to win at your award ceremony in New York. Please excuse this long email. It is quite long, but a few different elements in it. I would love to get your take on an issue that has been a big annoyance for me in recent years, and that is the atmosphere at the Aviva Stadium during Ireland rugby home games. I know you've probably discussed this over the last few years, but I think the game against France really highlighted the issue. As the fourth or fifth rendition of La Marseillaise rang out around the Aviva, it really became apparent, even through the TV, that the home crowd had no answer to the French away support, even in our biggest game of the calendar year. I know the score might have affected this, but it's still a problem. However, I believe it's becoming a common theme across all home games that the crowd isn't doing enough to create a hostile or intimidating atmosphere. How many times over the years have we heard the cliche that the crowd is like an extra man? In that case, I guess France had 16 players playing on Saturday. As a supporter when I was younger, I was lucky enough to attend a handful of home games in the old Lansdowne Road. The atmosphere, in my opinion, was always incredible. In my opinion, a number of factors such as ticket prices, the corporate aspect around games, and the newer phenomenon of influencer social media content creation at games is having a real hindrance on the game day atmosphere. I understand the IRFU need to make money and to explore avenues continuing growing the game in Ireland. I also understand that they may have connections in the corporate world that they don't want to lose, but I understand they may want to use influencers or social media personalities with the platform to try to attract a younger, more diverse audience, and I think that's fair, but I just can't shake this feeling that the majority of supports are being left behind. So he goes on to mention that he's a Leinster fan. He found the URC games were a lot more accessible. He was able to go along, and maybe something that we see in all sports, where when it gets to the big ticket occasions, the real fans are perhaps neglected for those other elements that he's mentioned. On the TikTok craze and influencers and all that, he was making the point that you do see it at games where potentially people aren't that engaged with the match. They're more interested in creating content for their own channels, and the other kind of common refrains, which, it's kind of become a bugbear of journalists in rugby, that like people leaving the seats to go and get drinks and maybe not paying wholesale attention. Just on that broader point, like, you take the Ireland-France game, if we were to delve into that maybe from a different angle than perhaps what other people have and David has here, how can Ireland fans really become super vocal and get absolutely energised by a performance when they're getting beaten out the gate?
Yeah, because there was three elements to that email that I wanted to touch on. The first one was that the atmosphere was good at that game. I was at it. I wasn't sitting in the press box, so I was down, among the fans, and it was a good atmosphere. So the idea that it was completely dead from the start and the only noise was French supporters chanting Les Marseillaise is not accurate. And yeah, to that point, it went flat as a pancake once France scored 3 tries and the game was out of reach. And at that stage, then the French support certainly made their presence felt. And the second point was that there was a huge number of French supporters in the stadium, more so than ideally you would like at a home game. And that goes back to the tickets being quite expensive, rugby clubs packaging them and selling them on, and French supporters getting their hands on them in huge numbers. Because 2 years ago it was a very similar amount of French supporters there, and they do make a lot of noise. But I've been at Twickenham, I've been in Paris when Irish supporters have been making that kind of noise, when Ireland have been on top and the home team haven't been playing well. So that's not that much of a surprise to me. Supporters don't have an obligation, if they're getting absolutely pumped, to be making raucous, passionate noise. If Ireland were winning by 25 points, I don't think the French supporters would have been quite as vocal. And the French supporters generally are quite a vocal people, and they do bring a lot of colour. You see any of their club matches, it's pretty similar. So it's a different supporting culture than what we have in Ireland. But the main point I wanted to mention, I guess, was that the atmosphere was good, and when you're getting beaten out the gate, I don't think there shouldn't be an onus on supporters to kind of maintain some sort of faux atmosphere.
Absolutely. No, the Sing in the Fields of Athenry, what does that achieve apart from aren't we great? Do you remember when Spain were beating Ireland comparatively heavily at Euro 2012, and Ireland were Ireland fans are amazing? That was fairly pathetic, actually. I thought. I was like, lads, come on, it's embarrassing.
Fields of Athenry is good, like anything is good when Ireland are winning. So if you think about the Shane Long goal against Germany, I know we're talking about rugby, but ball goes into the net, the crowd are going mad. there's a feeling in there that we're doing it and we are all engaged. And then the chant is meaningful and people are singing it as loud as they can and it's defiant. They're screaming it at the pitch. Then it's different to people doing it for the sake of doing it for singing, because there used to be a sort of discussion like, is it up to the fans or the players to to get each other?
Yeah.
It's up to the players. Like, the fans respond to what's happening on the pitch. And that's why I always say about I don't like reducing football into like just have a shot or just get it forward. But it's unbelievable anytime you're at Aviva, somebody just takes a pot shot from 20 yards and then the cheer goes up and then it's like, let's win the next ball. Let's go. That's all they're looking for. And it's the same with rugby. If you get pumped, of course.
Well, that's it. Like the crowd were completely shell shocked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've seen such a reversal on the scoreboard in such a short space of time. From Dan Sheehan's try, 15 minutes later, Ireland are 20 points down. The crowd are reeling. Like, so like a lot of people have been criticising the atmosphere off the back of, well, generally, as that emailer points out, and there's been lots of occasions where the atmosphere generally has been poor, but say for England this year and France this year, the atmosphere was good, and it was more so how the game developed, I think, magnified the number of French supporters who were there, which I would agree with was far more than you ordinarily would like.
Yeah. No, it was a good email in fairness, and then but a point like a kind of just coincidence, but I retweeted something last night. This guy who I'm not familiar with, but I saw his tweet. 7 on the shirt is the name of the account, and he was quote tweeting PSV fans who were losing 8-1 on aggregate, and they were doing this thing which you see from European fan culture, which is laudable, and it's cool that they can choreograph this stuff, but they were doing like choreographed chanting and stuff, and they were 8-1 down, and people were saying real football fans, they sing win or lose. And our new friend 7 on the shirt said, my hot take is that these European fans don't actually react to or make sense with the game. It's rubbish. It's just choir practice regardless of what's going on in front of them. And I think it struck a chord with you, Will.
100%. I'd never considered it until I saw your retweet last night, and I actually found myself agreeing with it wholesale. Like doing the Poznan when you're 1-0 up, 2-0 up, 3-0 down, 4-0 down, the ball's at the other end, the ball's at this end. That makes no sense to me. I guess it goes back to my point from the weekend. Like, once that game was done and dusted, you can't, so I went to Ireland-Denmark, that playoff game, when Shane Duffy scored. The crowd was absolutely electric, one of the best atmospheres ever. Then obviously Ireland go on to win 5-1. I think I left when it was 20 minutes to go, because I was just like, this is just demoralising.
As in, so Denmark turned it on its head.
Turned on its head. And I left with maybe 15 minutes to go, and I was like, I remember then there was comment pieces after the game castigating the supporters who'd left the stadium and stuff like that, and I was just thinking, Jesus, it was as disappointing a game as I've ever been at, and I'd seen enough. I just didn't want, but I was being pointed at as some sort of disgrace, and maybe I was, but I just wanted to get out of there. I just I've seen enough of this, so the idea that I should have been arm in arm with Ireland supporters, jumping up and down from minute 1 to minute 90, it's certainly not something I would be able to do or want to do.
Yeah, the singing is not the thing. Like any songs, and there's a lot of banger songs, obviously, and inspirational at the right time. It's the context with which they're using is the beauty of it. Like, I love Ale 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 when it comes on at Villa Park, but it's when they're responding to something going well. Like you're talking about the Denmark game, but remember the Bosnia one 2 years before that at home to qualify for the Euros. John Walter scores a game, we're 2-0 up, and everyone, the flag or the scars were going round and round and round, and everyone was singing. And again, it was the context, what it was in, and it meant something. The best atmosphere in football is when everyone's engaged with the match and they're roaring at each pattern of play, and they want the ball to go here to here to, and they're all totally switched on to it. The worst atmosphere, and I have it all the time, I go to the Aviva, and it better not happen next Sunday night, is when the bloody Mexican wave starts.
Yeah. And
everyone's just looking around, it's coming. And I feel like a wet blanket because I'm not getting involved. I'm trying to watch the match, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong because I'm not standing up with everybody else.
But I was at the Aviva Stadium for the Europa League final, just gone, Atlanta versus Bayer Leverkusen, and obviously that was a massive shock. Atlanta ended up hammering them, and the Bayer fans, unbelievable as though it was similar to that. It was just the same atmosphere from 1 to 90, and I was like, are you guys not devastated? You came in a European final, they lost the Champions League final, but an opportunity to win our first ever European trophy potentially, and you're getting pumped by Atlanta, and it's just flares being lit off and everyone doing a Poznan. I'm just like, what? I'd be head in my hands. I would have already on the flight back to Germany probably.
Yeah, no, because I haven't been to a few Bayern games. That is the case. There's a constant white noise, but to Conan's, what Conan's alluding to there, it does ratchet up as Bayern are turning the screw. You can hear it kind of, the volume raises. Whereas the other ones, it's just a din in the background where, apart from a goal hitting the net, it's just the same.
Might as well be a vuvuzela.
Yeah, exactly. So
I suppose it's a cultural difference as well. Like, we watch sport, or maybe I'm just outing myself as someone who's a real curmudgeon, but watching sport in a different way. That, like, as you say, Conor, I'm responding to the ebbs and flows of a game, not just. I'm not completely engaged the same way I am, no matter what's happening.
No.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Tralee tomorrow for Armagh Kerry, see the All Ireland champions. But it's funny, like, because GA, it's so limited to just syllabic chanting of the county that you're supporting. But it's funny how intuitive GA fans are, that they know when to start those. Are you with me?
Yeah, I am.
Like
100%.
when your team is on top and you want to hammer that home, but also when your team needs a lift. But isn't it funny how often it's bang at the right time?
You know why that's happening as well? Is because you are with the opposition supporters. So you're doing it to annoy them almost as well. Your team have just scored, your team have just stuck the fist up, and then you're chanting at the pitch, but you're doing it for the Kerry person beside you. Derry, Derry. Although when Derry play Kerry, that gets confusing.
Yeah, well, that is true. It's I feel sorry for, obviously, the monosyllabic counties like Laois. It just sounds...
You need two syllables.
Laois. Yeah, but like when Dublin were getting absolutely destroyed, the startled earwigs, like down by 15, 20 points, like I don't recall it being like, come on you boys, and like, rattling out. Maybe it was, but I would be very surprised.
Just on the GA point, last topic for today's Bits and Bobs. I know Conán has a great coaching panel coming up on Monday, our return of Not the Monday panel.
Oh, here we go.
We've got, you want to talk us through who's on it?
Yeah, we got Stephen Poacher, current Leitrim senior football manager, and obviously one of the key figures behind Carlo Rising. We have Shane Keegan, who hasn't he coached. He's obviously coaching the Europa League with Dundalk. League of Ireland manager. When he was League of Ireland manager, he was also coaching GA teams as well. He's currently the dual manager of Tipperary team JK Brackens, hurling and football at the same time. And we have Sarah O'Donovan as well. We had her on a Friday panel before, and she's brilliant. Cork All Ireland Camogie winner, and she is a renowned coach now as well. So it's I'm really looking forward to it.
One thing the coaches are trying to wrap their heads around is obviously the ever-changing role of the goalkeeper, and myself and Conán chatting at the desk every couple of weeks, and you're mentioning at Scary's your considerations with goalkeeping, and like it's just changing week on week, or like what the primacy should be. We've actually heard from a few emails on goalkeepers. One of them was a little bit tangential, but hello lads, big fan of the podcast, first time emailer. I felt compelled to get in touch after listening to last Friday's Bits and Bobs with Conán and Conor. Particularly gripped by Conor's dismissal of the 7-1 bench split in rugby being a worthy talking point. If I recall correctly, he described it as confected nonsense. Thankfully, no such nonsense exists in Gaelic football, allowing Conor to dedicate another week to the existential crisis of whether or not goalkeepers should be allowed to cross the halfway line. Yours with tongue in cheek, Barry. But we've got an email from we've got two, probably a bit of discord on the email front regarding goalkeepers. So from Ben, I've been listening to various chats on the pod recently regarding the new rules in Gaelic football. Overall, I think the new rules look brilliant. However, I think the goalkeeper situation is ridiculous. The latest change where a team can drop a fourth outfield player back so that the keeper can go forward, it's completely overcomplicating things, and to me looks like the FRC are afraid to do what we all know is right, to force goalkeepers to stay in goals. The man who keeps coming up in this conversation is Niall Morgan. Clearly a very good footballer, but for me it's simple. If he or any goalie wants to go out and play outfield, then put on an outfield jersey and play as one of the 14. Not to be harsh, but the reality is most people who start playing in goals at any age do so because they're not good enough to play as an outfield player. Harsh. Either they're not athletic enough, also harsh, or just don't have the required skills. To any goalkeeper out there who would feel wronged if goalkeepers were banned from receiving a pass anywhere outside their square, why don't you try playing as an outfield player? There are so many new rules for refs, players, managers to get their heads around, and concerns about policing the three up. The latest goalie rule just complicates things even more and is so unnecessary. The FRC and the GA are bending over backwards to accommodate goalkeepers, and they need to get over themselves, says Ben.
Go on, Ben.
So we're going to hear from an actual goalkeeper in a second who's kind of in the thrust of these rule changes, but what do you think of Ben's email?
I just like when someone says like no offence and then says something
amazing,
like extremely offensive. I thought it was a good email and I would agree with it. Maybe not quite as strongly as he put it, but I actually think I might reserve my judgment until the other email is right, because it's a good yin and yang.
I know, I am all in on Ben. I want stocks in Ben here. If he's going to send any more emails, I know they're going to be good, because he's so right. He's so bang on. And like, the thing is about these goalkeepers, there used to be a thing where, say, there's a centre forward, and it's like, oh, he's very good if you give him space. And it's like, well, everybody's good if you give him space. These keepers are getting space all the time because they're unmarked. And he's right. The FRC are afraid for some reason to tamper with it too much. They want to give them the option. Right, now we have to understand, we have to accept that the goalkeeper and people figuring out about possession, how easy that is, that's ruined the game. Like, that is part of the main problem, and the keeper makes that possible. So unfortunately, that's what we have to target. And Jim Gavin has always been talking about there's been great evolution in goalkeeping, and we don't want to tamper with that. No goalkeeper was ever just swanning around in the opposition half, picking up loose ball as a free man. That wasn't any part of the evolution. The evolution was that they were great at kickouts and they were really good at coming from the back like a sevens goalkeeper. That stopped. Like that evolved away again. Like that moment was gone. There was never a period where they were walking around in the opposition half picking up a ball. Like eventually keeper started going that far up, but it wasn't something we had to protect. You know, that wasn't something we had to keep for the sanctity of the game. So yeah, just let them be goalkeepers, and if they don't like it, as everybody keeps saying, don't be a goalkeeper. Like this goes way back. Think about when you were an underage player and you thought you were a wing back, but you got put in the corner. And you didn't like it because back then especially you were definitely playing cornerback and you were marking a corner forward and you had to watch the play unfold up above and you were like, oh, I could join in there if I was further up the pitch, but you're not further up the pitch, you're cornerback and it's annoying and you have to suck it up, and all you can do is complain to the manager that he plays you cornerback. Well, maybe now goalkeepers will just have to complain that I'm playing goalkeeper. I should be playing halfback. I want to play out the field. Stop playing me goalkeeper.
Yeah, like I think goalkeeping is a specialist position. I think it's creditable to be a great shot stopper, and that's what you're known for. Like there's famous goalkeepers that will be remembered forevermore for that reason. So I don't actually see the shame in it, honestly, per se. We'll end on this. So an email from a goalkeeper who has asked not to be named. So don't know if you remember the secret footballer in The Guardian.
Oh,
this is kind of like the goalkeeper.
Was it Paul Kitson? Was that who turned out to be in the end?
I think there was some allusion. Dave Kitson, former Reading, turned down Ireland.
Real secret.
Famously. Hi lads, love the show. I'm emailing about everyone's favourite topic, football rules, in particular my experience as a goalkeeper with the new rules. For the most part, I feel the FRC has done a solid job. I regularly play in the forwards and it's night and day enjoyment wise. Unfortunately, the new amendments have essentially ruined Gaelic football for me. It's been 2 sessions so far with the additional restrictions on goalkeepers. I don't want to overreact, but it's honestly been the most boring week of my life. I'm close to the ball a lot, but I can't get involved. I feel like a child. His parents have dropped him off at the local club to give football a go, but he's no interest. Except I want to get involved and be interested, but I'm not allowed. Tuesday night we played a challenge game. I counted my live touches, as in not including goal kickouts, 1 touch. A hand pass my cornerback played to me, and the result, a free from the 13-metre line as he was a foot outside the large rectangle.
That's like a pariah. Do not pass to him.
So my only live action with the ball was to run out to their full forward line to convert a free and me to lump the ball out again. Job done. Back to jogging around inside the 13 to stay warm. Would you call that playing football? The new rules allowing goalkeepers to go forward and be tracked makes sense in theory, but they're a token gesture when you really think about it, as the risk reward of vacating the goals to try and support an attack from 70 to 100 yards away is a non-runner, especially when you can't touch or receive the ball if the attack breaks down. The FRC's executive summary states they want to make it Gaelic football the most enjoyable amateur sport in the world to play and watch. I can tell you after 1 week the new amendments have not done so for me. The skills of the game the FRC were aiming to create, as in more kicking, catching, scoring of long range points, goal scoring and general creative play. In club football, I bet a goalkeeper is a top 3 kicker on every team. Currently we essentially can't kick past the ball unless we get lucky, never mind kick any points. I'm 33 now. I'll be 38 when the next set of rule changes come in. The remainder of any football career will probably be decided over the next few weeks, which to me is scary considering how this week has gone. I thought I had 5 or 6 years left in me. At the moment I'm sounding out soccer teams instead, Conan.
Oh, he's going to get loads of touches there.
Overall, I think the GA is speed running into a problem where people just won't want to play in goals anymore. That's kind of always been the problem. You get stuck in goals as a kid. I coach our minor and under 21 keepers. We train as a group once a week. 3 have decided not to play in goals anymore as they don't think it'll be enjoyable.
No,
they're right.
I have to intervene, right? Because I've done a lot of underage coaching, and getting goalkeepers is always a problem. It's an age-old problem. Nobody wants to play in goals. You have to bargain with a player that, can you play goals for me in championship if I play you outfield? This is an age-old problem.
Yeah, I think like he has some suggestions around how to resolve it. Like one of them one novel one was actually increase the value of goals, so then goalkeepers might get more involved, like have to save some shots, because there's probably games going by where goalkeepers don't have to do any goalkeeping.
He's right about that. We've had 2 club games so far in the Dublin League, and the defenders are obviously doing well, but there hasn't been a shot on goal yet. And I think it's because of the 2-point arc now as well, and teams are just letting fly, and the goal is obviously devalued because of the 2-pointer.
Yeah, he was saying, like, basically goalkeepers can only receive kick passes and they can only perform kick passes, so no hand passing by goalkeepers. That'd probably be easy enough to police, in fairness. Like, it would solve the whole easy escape from a kick out where short kick out, hand pass back to the goalkeeper and he walks out. So you don't think so?
No, I don't.
Are you not anti-hand pass? I thought this is.
I am anti-hand pass, but I'm also anti-goalkeepers getting involved. Like, you made a point there, like, as in, this is a new phenomenon. It's not as if goalkeepers always used to be involved and come up, and people dreamed of being a goalkeeper so they could come up the pitch and kick points. Like, a goalkeeper's job was traditionally, up until the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years.
Not even, and like, if you
5 years,
like I would even say 3. Like, if you think about Oran Lynch,
so this guy's 33, so he's like the same age as me. Like, so I played Gaelic football, 15 years ago. Like, so he would have as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I doubt this guy his whole career was doing it. So there must have been a lengthy period of this guy's goalkeeping career where he was just a goalkeeper.
It was 2021, the Ulster final that was played at Croke Park.
Oh, yeah.
Between Niall Morgan and Rory Began. It was Monaghan and Tyrone were playing, but it was the Morgan Began Ulster final, because it was mad. It was those two outmarking each other. They were under each other's post. They were out for kickouts. That was really the first time where it was like, this is crazy. Like, and that's the last 4 years.
Yeah. So, like, did he think Gaelic football was the most boring game ever for the first 10 years of his career, or was it a case of, as you said, there's so few shots now to save? Did that kind of occupy his mind up to that point? Because it is a new phenomenon. So if he's been playing Gaelic football for so long.
Yeah. No, and it is a good point he's making about the shot stopping. So goalkeepers probably in general have so much less to do, and the kick outs. Now somebody will come along who's very good at it, but the kick outs are even more basic now as well,
just
because
driving it.
Yeah, exactly. So that probably is a bit annoying where they're not even picking passes as much as they used to. So I do sympathise with what he's saying. There's probably a bit more work to get the ideal place for keepers, but in terms of people not wanting to play nets, and like, that's the reason even if you go play 5-a-side, nobody wants to go in nets for the 5 minutes you have to go in, but you go in, and very rarely somebody comes along who wants to play in goals, and it's a dream scenario. Like, that's when you find that person at your club, hang on to them.
If the collateral damage of, like, the new rules taking off is some goalkeepers are disenchanted, I think that's the price we're paying. I'm sorry to this emailer, but
is it Die Hard where they're on the helicopter and it's like, we might lose 20-25% of the hostages? I can live with that.
Well, we still have 75%. So as long as there's a few goalkeepers survive the initial purge.
Yeah. Closing remarks from the secret goalkeeper here. I'll give it a few weeks to settle in, but my fear is it'll be settled by then, and the remainder of my career could be decided by haphazard trialling of rules with knee-jerk reactions to wind assisted football that was never allowed to settle in the first place. Apologies for the long email. I know you hate those. I have 3 kicking tees for sale if anyone is interested. No, I'd appreciate you if you kept my name anonymous. The lads will only be slagging me.
No, I like the secret goalkeeper. Like, we've given him a bit of a do in there, but he's got some good points.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely a worthy
good
opponent.
email.
A good email.
Great email.
I don't agree with a lot of his points, but he's making me think, and I think he should be a recurring character in Bits and Bobs.
Well, and I wish
secret goalkeeper, please, by all means, keep in touch. We want to keep abreast of your journey.
I wish him the best in retirement.
He's definitely not going to email me.
That's a joke.
He's probably going to DM you now. And not so secret.
He seems like a nice guy, to be fair.